Hello and welcome. In this tutorial, I'm going to show you how the new set of plugins called Colourpro is working. I'm going to give you an overview to how they are supposed to use, what are the main elements, and then in the future videos, we're going to go a little bit deeper in each one of the plugins and learn how they work. So let's begin. So here is a quick overview to how to use the Colourpro plugin bundle. What I got here is a DaVinci Resolve that is not color managed. So I'm just using DaVinci YRGB. As my timeline color space, I am actually using ACES AP1 and ACES CCT. This is, just for the metadata because this is the closest to the JPlog2. And then as my output color space, I have selected settings that are equivalent to my monitor, which is sRGB and sRGB. So basically, we're not really color managing. We're just, using this as a metadata. And here is my clip. I'm just going to show it to you without any adjustments. So basically it's shot, with a high-speed camera with Black Magic. And then what I did is I just applied the color space transform. So I said, okay, we're going from Black Magic Gen 5 to Rec 709. And then I used a little bit my primary here and I adjusted the look, just to kind of reduce a little bit the contrast. But this is pretty much the look that I got out of the box using the standard DaVinci RCM2 color managed settings. Now I'm going to go and take that same clip and I'm going to build a node tree. Very simple node tree just to show you, roughly, how these elements of the Colourpro can be used. So the first node here that I'm going to use is going to be my I node, right? So this is the first node. So I'm going to go and just select that I node here. And that's where we made color management much simpler, because if you recall here, when we use color space transform, there's lots of different settings and gammas and mapping and all of this and forward OTIF. So look, we've actually made this so simple that all you have to do is you just select the camera and then we will take care of the rest. You don't really have to do anything else, but just tell us, hey, I am using Blackmagic Gen 5, right? So that's all you need to do. Okay, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go and have another node here, which is going to be my primary or CDL node. And then I'm going to go here and I'm going to apply another node, which is going to be my ShowLat node, okay? And then I'm going to go and have a node that I'm just going to use for connecting. And then I will basically go and create parallel nodes, 3 parallel nodes. So the first parallel node is going to be Grain Lab. And you'll probably wonder, but hang on a moment, why are we putting, these effects in parallel? And the reason why is because these effects can heavily affect one another if they're in serial. I'm going to make a separate tutorial about it where we're going to learn a little bit more into detail, but the main advantage of being in a modular plugin system is that now I have a same source to all of the plugins that are actually going to affect in some way the image texture, and I don't want that output of one plugin gets affected by another. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go and say, okay, I want now my Halo Lab. I'm going to put it here. Okay, so this is the Halation plugin. So Halation plugin doesn't come after or before the grain. It actually, uses the same source to apply the same effect. So, we get a little bit better result like that. And then we go to the lens lab, and I'm just going to go and put the lens lab here as well. Okay. And then what I'm going to do is then I'm going to go and say, okay, I need one more node. Normally I put this node on timeline level, but what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go put it on just a node trees here so that you can see. And that is going to be my O node, my output node. By default, this output node is using ACES 1. And you can tell it looks like a pretty, like, ACC, right? It's very contrasty, right? So what I'm going to do now is I can go and, even though I have option to use ACES2 that I absolutely love, I'm actually going to use an oddity that I love even more, which is the oddity by Ari log C4. So look what's going to happen when I do that. Suddenly, I got much nicer highlight roll off, and especially the skin. Okay, so this is now kind of my basic setting. Okay, another thing that I need to do now is I need to go to my print lab, and I'm going to go print lab and put it on the place of the show LUT. So that is usually where my print lab is going to go. So this is like, think about it, 128 point LUT, and I'm emulating here just a film negative Vision 3, and I'm just going to increase its intensity a little bit. So you see what it does, it just really, like, improves, this whole color rendering that normally we would get, that limit of that gamut that normally we would like to get when we are shooting on film. So wonderful. And now we got, everything looking pretty good. All right, already out of the box. Okay, so let's now go and basically move to the next step of the process. So I'm going to go now and adjust each one of my texture elements. But before I do that, let me just quickly just go and just do a little manual adjustment. So I just lift my blacks a little, and I'm going to bring my gain down just a little. So just to kind of limit the high contrast of the shot that I have, I like it like this. Okay, fantastic. All right, so let's start. So now I'm going to go in the grain lab, and these kind of presets here, in your manual, you can see what they mean, what these numbers are. There is a code that describes everything, what these numbers are. So B stands for blend between different textures, N is for negative, P is for print, and the number next to it tells you how intense this is. So for example, if I go to B2, right, it's going to give me a texture that is very fine because it's using 65 millimeter. And even if I zoom in really a lot, like you can see that actually the texture, the plugin, generates very, very fine texture, and it is much more visible here on the scopes, right? But it's not so visible on our screen because we are using a setting of oversampling. In a GrainLab tutorial, I'm going to go a little bit deeper into that and explain you how all of these settings work. But in any case, I'm going to go for something much stronger now. I'm going to go for this B6, which is blend 6. It's using 16 millimeter like this. And now you can tell actually there is actually a visible texture, right? And look, if I turn it on and off, you can now tell, okay, yeah, there is a little bit texture there available, right? Okay, now I'm going to go into halation. The halation effect, again, I'm just going to go use maybe like a H6. I want to have like a little bit stronger halation effect. And you see what it does straight away, improves, the skin itself. Like, look at it, how it basically like, finally, like, like applies like a little kind of glow to everything. And what is really interesting, what we have here, is that we can actually go into the diffusion controls, and here we're using a bloom effect, right? So you see, this is like the optical filters that we normally put, and I can just increase this bloom effect a little bit more, right? And you see that gives like my skin like this beautiful softness, right? That's exactly what I want. Okay, next thing I'm going to go into the lens lab. So lens lab again, S stands for spherical, A for anamorphic, V for vintage. So let's go, I'm going to go with the vintage setting. Here I have a modulation transfer function, which is absolutely wonderful for skin. So I'm just going to go and shave off some of those highlight details here. And then I'm going to use lens tint. So you see, I'm going to go and make it all a little bit warmer because I'm just applying a little lens tint. And then when it comes to distortion, I leave it like this. I'm using like 24 millimeter distortion. But I want to add a little vignette, please. So I will just go and add a little bit vignette like this. Okay. So there we go. So you see, I got here. Let me just go bring this down just a little bit like this, right? Okay. So here is my kind of, just a basic setting using Colourpro plugins. And here is your out of the box DaVinci Resolve color management. I mean, we're going to see in other tutorials, we're going to compare it to even ACES or other color management methods. But the reality is this: when you are working with a plugin of such a high precision, what you get is an image that is just much more film-like, basically, right? So look, if I was just to disable to you only these like a texture plugins, you see how much effect they actually have on skin tone, on texture of an image, of complete feel of an image that we got. And it just feels so much better than an image like this, where basically, everything looks very sharp, every detail is like, very, very pronounced, the colors are very vivid and so on. So this is basically, why we like to work, with texture as we are building our looks in addition to using color. So hope you like this quick tutorial, quick overview. Please go ahead and watch other little tutorials that I made about each one of these plugins. And as we go along, there will be much more of interesting, creative ways we can use the plugins to come to some most amazing looking images. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for watching this tutorial. Don't forget to subscribe, as we will be publishing more of tutorials like this. And if you have any specific questions or you'd like to see something you haven't seen before, just please put it down in comments below.